The 2025 Formula One season just took place. Let's go through how each team and driver has performed in the season finale, starting with the worst performers of the main race, ending with the highest scorers of the Grand Prix, starting with Alpine. Pierre Gasly is happy and ecstatic that the season has been completed and they didn't have any kind of pace. But Pierre Gasly, being Pierre Gasly, who is the Max Verstappen of Alpine, he decided to push so hard that he ended up doing a lot of track limits violations, got himself a 5 second penalty, but didn't really matter much to his finishing position because there he was literally at the back of the grid, and also he was massively quicker than Franco Colapinto, which is saying something. We move on. Racing Bulls. Another story about a couple of drivers who are just extremely slow. Isaac Ajar confirmed it. It's usually a little bit difficult and hard to believe that Liam Lawson doesn't go ahead in a race because his race execution is actually pretty good. And Isaac Ajar has been experiencing some sort of curses because he's extremely quick on Saturday, but then on Sunday, due to the slow pace of the Racing Bull, they dropped back. And it was the slowest in the 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And, they really don't have any kind of answer for that. They just got overtaken left, right, and center by literally everybody except for the Alpines. So that's their race. They literally finished P17 and P18 ahead of both of the Alpine drivers. We move on. Williams. Again, another team who don't really have any kind of pace, and they just got settled in as the race evolved towards the back of the grid. And this is one of my many gripes with the Yas Marina circuit. Not only the races are extremely boring here because you always know what the weather is going to be like, you always know what type of strategy the teams are going to do, and the likelihood of a safety car, due to a DNF, due to a crash, that's literally is the only thing that keeps the race exciting. But other than that, it's a pretty dull race because even if you have a slower car, you should be able to defend your position to a certain degree if you start ahead. At least in a lot of the other racing tracks, it is possible to some degree. Hungaroring is a good example. Imola is another example where you can actually defend even if you don't have, even if the car behind you is slightly faster. But not in Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, as the race evolves, you will tumble down the order if your pace is not there, and that's exactly what happened to the Williams. Kind of very similar to what happened to Isaac Ajar. He started P9, ended up bumfuck nowhere. Similar-esque thing happened to Carlos Sainz and Alexander Albon. They just couldn't do much. One key thing that Alex said in the post-race interview is that it's a race to forget. No, he said a weekend to forget, but a season to remember, which is, very good. They secured P5 in the constructor standings, which is pretty amazing to see. And big shout out to Carlos Sainz for scoring a couple of podiums in the 2025 Formula One season. At the start, he said that's not going to happen. But, we all found out that it was a fucking lie. Really excited about what these guys can do next season. We move on. Kick Sauber. Absolutely great performance by Nico Hülkenberg. The guy is a master of executing race paces and stealing points. For a second there, for I think in the middle stint, somewhere in the middle part of the race, he kind of looked quicker than both of the Ferraris, which is very impressive to see considering these guys were nowhere at the start of the season and this is their last year as a team. The final year of regulation, and Nico Hülkenberg was kind of on the pace of the Ferraris. He was P9, went all the way from P18 to P9, deserved the driver of the day. Probably didn't get it. I don't know who got the driver of the day. Was it Max? Whoever it was, Nico Hülkenberg deserved the driver of the day. Now, something happened with Gabriel Bortoleto. He had some defensive, he earlier had some issues overtaking Fernando Alonso like everybody else. But then after that, he complained about the car bouncing and being unstable in the straights, and due to which he lost a lot of speed. This was uncharacteristic of him because in the earlier part of the weekend, if you look at the practice sessions, he was quick. If you look at the qualifying session, This guy qualified P7. That's not a joke. I mean, we all know that Gabriel Bortoleto is a magician in one lap on Saturday, kind of like Isak Ajar. But at the same time, when he dropped down the order the way he did, he should have finished in the pool, like in the points is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, getting overtaken by so many midfield teams, not teams and cars and drivers. I mean, Lewis Hamilton is still a midfield driver at this stage of his career. It's unfortunate, but it's true. We will talk about him in a second. But being overtaken by a bunch of midfielders in Abu Dhabi shows that Gabriel Bortoleto didn't really have the pace that he had on Friday and Saturday, is all I'm trying to say. So yeah, obviously they need to go and see what they have done wrong. I mean, it's not like the car changes overnight. Maybe something got worn off. Maybe it's the heavier fuel loads. Maybe it's related to that. I guess we'll find out in time. We move on. Haas. Absolutely great performance by Esteban Ocon, starting P8, finishing P7. Well judged, well managed, didn't crash into anyone. Tried his best to overtake Fernando Alonso, his former teammate, but didn't quite make it. But he did have decent pace though. He was defending well against drivers around him. I think he defended well against Lewis Hamilton. There was another race in 2025. I think it was it Qatar or was it Las Vegas? Somewhere, I think Esteban Ocon, held off Lewis Hamilton. I think this is another one where he bested the 7-time world champion, but Lewis came all the way from back. So Esteban Ocon, don't really like him as a human being because of what he does to his teammates. But overall, great driver. He has done a good job at the end of the season. Oliver Behrman did a great job too. I just want to throw it out there. Started P11, had a 5-second penalty, lost only one position. Not too shabby, if you think about it. And also, the last couple of races of the 2025 season, Qatar and Abu Dhabi, Oliver Behrman is going home without any points. Not quite his fault. First, in Qatar, there was a botched pit stop, so, nothing he could have done. And before that, he was on a 5-race point-scoring streak. That's insane. And then after that, in Abu Dhabi, he didn't really pull off a good lap in the Q2 session of the qualifying on qualifying day. But in race, he was actually looking decent. But then he didn't get he did get the extremely undeserving 5-second penalty for change of directions for more than one time. So, I guess it is what it is. And he was himself very confused. I think someone else got it. I think Yuki Tsunoda got the penalty, which is again absurd in my opinion. But either way, this is how the FIA stewards do it. Absolutely boring race, dog shit race, disgusting penalties, but didn't affect Oliver Behrman by much because he was I don't think he really was in a good position to score some good points without the penalty. Without the penalty. Without the penalty or with the penalty? So with the penalty, after the 5-second, he was really out of contention from scoring points, considering Lewis Hamilton went through the field and there were just quicker cars, DRS train, that sort of thing in Abu Dhabi. It happens, so it is what it is. We move on. Aston Martin. So first of all, big shout out to Lance Stroll for scoring a point, ending the season in a high, GOAT. And if this guy is not one of your favorite drivers off the grid for the last 5 years running, then what the fuck are you doing? You need to get your shit together. And also, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but since the last few races, probably like 3, 4, 5 races or something like that, Lance Stroll has been more vocal. I think it's like before Vegas. What was before Vegas? Brazil? Maybe from Vegas, Lance Stroll's interviews are now carrying substance. It's unbelievable. It's interesting. He is saying things. He's talking about the tires. He's talking about the effect of DRS and dirty air. He is literally sounding like a Formula 1 driver. Then on the other side, you got Fernando Alonso, the GOAT, the legend. At 44 years old, he still outqualified his younger teammate. And younger by more than a decade. I think it's about like 15 years. His younger teammate flat, like 24-0. That's how good he is. So started P6, overtook George Russell and someone else at the start of the race, and then just held track position, finished P6, best of the rest, great position, great drive by Fernando Alonso in the last couple of races. I think he was P7 in Qatar, P6 in Abu Dhabi. So there are a few races in which Aston Martin have been strong, kind of like the Mercedes, and the rest of the tracks are just bogey tracks. So I guess we will see next season how strong these guys become. They are going to be a fully works team. They will have dedicated partnership with Honda. I don't know why they are moving away from Mercedes, to be honest. But I guess we will see. Adrian Newey is now their new team principal, so there must be some magic happening, brewing under the hood. F1 cars don't have the hood, more like side panels and fucking bodywork. But I guess we will see in time. We move on. Mercedes. So again, there's not much to say about Mercedes. They're just all over the place in terms of car performance, predictable car performance, that is. Osama bin Russell, decent start, didn't really quite have the grip at the launch, so lost the position to Fernando, and that kind of pushed him to lose another position. Then Charles Leclerc was actually too quick. So Charles was actually too quick for George Russell to catch up and pass or do any kind of thing. But it is what it is. Did whatever the best he could. Top 5 finish. Good performance. Mr. Consistent strikes again. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, very unimpressive. I mean, his pace was nowhere. He was uncomfortable in the car throughout the weekend, actually. I don't think there was any kind of session in which he was competitive. I think in Q1 he was kind of competitive, like the qualifying session. And then I think in FP2, if I'm correct, in FP2 he looked decent. But after that, throughout the race, I don't think he had pace at all. I mean, he was not defending proper. He did have a couple of overtakes. I think he overtook Liam Lawson in some point of the race. But that's really about it. I mean, he didn't have the pace. For some reason, he couldn't make his way through the grid. I don't know if he got a penalty. But I don't think he got a penalty. I think Gasly got a penalty. Then Yuki Tsunoda got a penalty. Then Oliver Behrman got a penalty. I don't think Kimi Antonelli got a penalty. But yeah, either way, uncharacteristic of him to finish in P15 with a Mercedes which had the capability of finishing much further up in the points, and he also didn't make any kind of progress. But apart from that, he has a couple of podiums in 2025 Formula 1 season thanks to the double disqualification of McLaren in Las Vegas. He has a couple of podiums, so I think he definitely can be proud of that. We move on. Ferrari. Now, the season was a disaster. Like everything considered, Charles Leclerc said it himself. He said that, somehow, like from weekend to weekend, you have to be positive, you have to be motivated. But at the end of the year, when you consolidate all of the results, it's a trash year, which is true. Dog shit year. But this weekend was actually good. Lewis Hamilton started P16, finished P8. Kind of identical to Nico Hülkenberg's performance, because Hülkenberg started P18, finished P9. So, Lewis Hamilton, Ferrari engine, Nico Hülkenberg, Ferrari engine, both of them old, some parallels to be drawn. Actually, a very decent performance. He had, very early in the race, I think at lap 8 or lap 9, he ran out of the soft tires, then he pitted, and then he had, after that he also had one more stop, so he was on a 2-stop race. And 2-stop from P16 to P8 in a dogshit Ferrari, which is difficult to drive. Charles Leclerc knows the complexities of that, so he knows how to drive around the issues of the car. That's why he is able to extract the performance that he does. But for Lewis Hamilton to drive that difficult car which doesn't really have good performance, and the entire year he has been struggling, I'm just extremely happy that this is over. I'm extremely happy that in the final race of the season, at least he had a recovery drive that he can look back and be proud of in some degree. I'm pretty sure he hates 2025 altogether, because this is his first season in his illustrious career that he doesn't have a podium. He lost his best friend Roscoe Hamilton. He went to his dream team in Ferrari, and then John Elkann, the boss, said that he need to shut the fuck up and concentrate on driving, which is again horrible. He's slowly realizing the dogshit culture of Ferrari, where it's all about putting on good dresses and looking good for the pictures rather than focusing on what matters most, winning world championships. So he is realizing all those things. So 2025 is horrible. Hopefully next year, I mean, it's never going to happen, but we can always hope that next year these guys have a good car. Charles Leclerc needs to move out of this team. That's all I can say. We move on. Verstappen.com Racing. All right, first of all, Yuki Tsunoda. Goodbye to him. We always knew that this was going to happen, like from the beginning of the season where he got the nod from Helmut Marko to try out his final season in Formula One as Max Verstappen teammate. From the moment we knew that Yuki Tsunoda is going to be fired from Formula One. And next year onwards, he's going to be the test and reserve driver. I don't know why he took that deal. He needs to go and look elsewhere. Go to Indy, go to fucking Hypercar, go to GT3, do something else, become a streamer, make money, go home. The dream of Formula One World Championship ain't happening, my boy. He has spent 5 years in Formula One, and there was not a single moment in his career in which we looked at those moments and like, wow, Yuki Tsunoda highlight reel. Doesn't exist. Doesn't fucking exist. I mean, I will be interested. I will actually be very surprised if Formula One, the official YouTube channel, uploads a compilation of Yuki Tsunoda's best ever results. I mean, I will be delighted to see that. No magical recovery drives, no amazing fight backs, no amazing wheel-to-wheel racing and defensive driving, something like that. Nothing that ever stands out. So that's all about Yuki Tsunoda. He needs to get real with himself. I'm not hating on the guy. I like the dude, actually. But he needs to keep it real with himself in the sense that he doesn't have what it takes to succeed at the highest echelon of motorsports. He was in a good car. He was in, AlphaTauri, Toro Rosso, whatever the fuck they were being called, and he was consistently behind Pierre Gasly. And this year also, the first two races, he was with Racing Bulls. And in the second race of the season in China, he was actually out-qualified by Isaac Ajar, a fucking rookie. Second race in Formula One. The first race, he DNF'd on the way to the grid information lap. In the second race, he out-qualifies Yuki Tsunoda, who has been in the sport for 5 years. So that's embarrassing shit. Guy needs to tell himself, look in the mirror and tell yourself that, dude, this is not for you. You had a try, 5 years, pretty amazing run. Not many people can say that, but now you need to go and look elsewhere. But let's shift our attention to Max Verstappen, the true champion of 2025. No, I'm joking. The true champion is Lando Norris, obviously. Anyway, Max Verstappen, fantastic comeback. 104 points behind right after the Dutch Grand Prix. But right now, he lost the championship by 2 points. Now, obviously, there are plenty of ways to look at it. Some people will say that if it was not for the mistake in Barcelona, he would have won. Other people would say that, it's already impressive that he's only 2 points behind. Other people will use this opportunity to talk shit about Lando Norris and say that despite having such a dominant car, he only won by 2 points, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, all things considered, I think Max Verstappen could have won this season. I think there were a couple of, only Barcelona comes to mind. So if you are fixated on Barcelona, then yes, this was Verstappen's championship. So I'm a little bit mad because in my mind, Verstappen could have won this, could have made it 5 in a row, could have matched Michael Schumacher's and Fangio's record. He had the opportunity, but that moment in Barcelona, it was such a crazy moment because he put on the hard tires. He asked for new tires, so he put on the hard tires. He went out there, no grip at the launch. Got overtaken by Charles Leclerc in the straight, and then Charles rammed him a little bit, just, shoved him a little bit. Then Osama bin Russell attempted an overtake on Verstappen, couldn't quite make it, hits Verstappen. Verstappen runs wide. Then Jean-Pierre Lambiase on the radio says that, bro, give the position back, and he was wrong. Jean-Pierre Lambiase, GP, Verstappen's race engineer, he is rarely wrong, kind of like Verstappen, but that time he was. He said that, Max, I recommend we give the position back, and Verstappen saw red. And he, shoved his car into George Russell, got himself a 10-second penalty, lost a bunch of positions, hell of a lot more than 2 points. and now we lost the world championship by 2 points. So that's how things panned out. But other than that, absolutely dominant weekend. If Red Bull fired Christian Horner a bit sooner, then I think, we could have had a better turnaround. If Christian Horner would have been fired by, I would say, Monaco Grand Prix, then we would have like a much stronger RB21 for Max Verstappen, is all I'm trying to say. But either way, next year we go back to car number 33. It's not going to be easy for everybody, especially us. But I guess, change is the only constant and we have to get used to it. We move on. McLaren. All right. First, we will talk quickly about Oscar Piastri. Then we will talk about the newly crowned world champion. I have a lot to say about him. So first, Oscar Piastri, great performance. Started P3, finished P2. Had an amazing overtake on the hard tires on Lando Norris, who was on the medium tires at the start of the race. So great ballsy, good overtake, managed his pace, gave himself a good chance, made the one-stop strategy work. Everything did well, but he fucked up a lot since, what's that track's name? Azerbaijan. Since Azerbaijan, dude has been off. All the way off, and until Qatar, he was off. And if you look at the entire season, Oscar Piastri had moments of dominance, and then also the moments where he was absolute shit. Lando Norris, on the other hand, this is just to draw the comparison, he had moments of, good performances, then slightly average performances, then like a mistake, but then he kind of remained in the middle. It was not too impressive, but not too shabby either. So Lando Norris actually kind of remained consistent overall the season, and despite having the engine blow up in Zandvoort, despite having, making the mistake in Canada and, touching the back of Oscar Piastri and taking himself out, despite the disqualification in Las Vegas. I mean, Las Vegas disqualification was also true for Oscar Piastri, but I'm just saying, Lando kind of had a more consistent season compared to Piastri, and Piastri could have won, man. He was certainly looking solid, because after Zandvoort, I don't know how far Lando was. I think Lando was about 32 or 34 points behind Oscar Piastri after the Dutch Grand Prix. But then after that, Oscar just started making massive mistakes. So it is what it is. I'm pretty sure he's going to learn from this. This is only his third year in Formula 1, and he was going up against Lando Norris, who is massively quick and now a newly crowned world champion. But I don't think Oscar's next shot at title is coming next year. I mean, it might. Everybody is betting on Mercedes engines. And also, in terms of chassis development, these motherfuckers are quite good. But there's no guarantee, so I guess we will see when winter testing come out. Then we finally talk about Lando Norris, the newly crowned world champion from United Kingdom. Many people said that Lando is not championship material. I was one of them. And I'm happy that Lando, with his driving, made me shut the fuck up. He made me eat my words. And now, in a way, in its own beautiful way, I'm happy that Lando Norris is a world champion. I know it's difficult for me to say it because I wanted Max to win. But at the same time, you have to admit, the guy who was trashed upon by literally everybody, including myself, and I said that he doesn't have the killer instinct. I said all those things. Just like most of the people on the internet, okay? They just don't have the balls to accept. Anyway, but everybody said a lot of things about Lando Norris, which were kind of partially true. The only person who kind of saw Lando Norris in a different light was Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, in my opinion. I mean, at least they made it vocal. Sebastian, in the Beyond the Grid podcast, he said that, Lando talking about his emotionality, talking about, being more vulnerable with the press, showing that side of him. It's actually a positive thing, and he's going to become a new kind of champion. He's the only one who said it. And it was at the time, I think it was after the 2025 Brazilian Grand Prix where Lando won, I think. Yeah, Lando won that one. But yeah, so Lando Norris, with all of his characteristics that we earlier thought were flaws and weaknesses, were actually his strengths. And if you look at the entire season, he was very consistent. Not in the sense of like Max Verstappen consistent, but in terms of his pace, he was good. His race pace was phenomenal. He was pretty good in mathematical circuits. The circuits where he won, he dominated. And yeah, I mean, he was pushed throughout the season by Oscar Piastri, who was pretty quick. And Oscar Piastri was the championship leader for the majority of the season. But Lando Norris, man, made an amazing comeback, continually chipped away. Oscar Piastri made mistakes, but he didn't quite really make a big impact, but he started chipping away. And another critical thing that I want to say, in the 2025 Italian Grand Prix in Monza, Lando Norris was P2, Oscar Piastri was P3. Oscar Piastri pitted first, Lando Norris pitted second. He had a slow pit stop and he emerged behind Oscar. The team told that they need to invert the positions, and Oscar Piastri agreed. He lifted off, allowed Lando Norris to overtake him. Now Lando was back on P2 and Oscar was P3 again. Turns out, those couple of points, I think that was 3 points, those were very crucial for Lando, because he won the World Championship by 2 points. Just throwing it out there. If Oscar Piastri was like, you know what, I am not lifting and I'm not letting Lando pass because slow stops are a part of racing. If Oscar did that, then Lando wouldn't be world champion. He would have lost the world championship by 1 point. But other than that, if you look at the DNF in Zandvoort, it was not Lando's fault at all. If you look at the disqualification in Vegas, it was not Lando's fault at all. 18 times 2, that's 36 points he would have had on Max Verstappen. Then he also made a couple of mistakes here and there. He didn't capitalize in Azerbaijan. He had that uncharacteristic mistake in Canada. All those things were there. But at the same time, Lando Norris somehow, when it mattered the most, he pulled himself together, got those phenomenal performances out of himself and the car, and now he is the world champion. Now, people say that once you become world champion, your skills become 40% better. So I'm excited to see what this version of Lando, the world champion Lando, is going to do the next season. I think he's going to be even more dominant force. And this is the thing that I was talking about regarding Oscar Piastri, because this time Oscar Piastri was fighting Lando Norris, who is supposed to be the favorite, and Oscar was actually getting the upper hand in a lot of the situations. Next year in 2026, Oscar Piastri is going to be going against Lando Norris, a world champion. That in itself is a stressful affair. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what this new version of Lando Norris is going to bring to the table, because that confidence, that mentality is going to make him 40% better and even faster. And Lando also had a nice heartfelt message about all of the drivers, and he talked about appreciating and respecting his rivals, especially Max, Lewis. I mean, Lewis is not his rival, but he raced against him in few situations, and then Oscar Piastri himself as well. So Lando Norris, great champion. I hope he becomes and remains a great champion. I don't know how he is going to change and how long his reign is going to be. But for now, we are in the Lando Norris era. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.